Hello and welcome to the Bubbling Up Podcast, a show about the people and places of Hot Springs, South Dakota, and the Southern Black Hills. I'm your host, Justin Gosman, and this show is coordinated through the Hot Springs Area Chamber of Commerce. Bubble Up. The Cambridge Dictionary defines bubble up as to rise to the surface or to become obvious. And that's why this show came about. I want the stories behind our fascinating small South Dakota town to rise to the surface and be heard. Hot Springs, South Dakota, population 3,460 today, is a community in the southwestern corner of South Dakota, about 50 miles south of Mount Rushmore. Founded in 1890, we got our name from, you guessed it, naturally warm mineral springs that bubble up from underground. The stories seem endless, and it's my hope that this show will enlighten not only the fellow residents of and potential visitors to Hot Springs as to the intriguing history of our community, but also to its ongoing inner workings today, the stories behind our local businesses, nonprofit organizations, and events, the voices that make a community what it is, and that are working to make it what it can be. I hope you'll join me on this journey. Thank you, Lucy, for sitting down with us. We're here with Lucy Stanslaw from Lucy and the Green Wolf here in Hot Springs. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
You're okay?
One of the coldest days this winter, but I'm okay. This is always hard for this implant here, but I'm okay.
It's chilly, but we're here, and we're actually sitting down in Lucy and the Green Wolf. And congratulations on 5 years in the community as of this July,
Yeah.
because it was July 2014 that you
Yeah.
opened up.
Yeah.
It,
July 1st.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So I guess I'll start with kind of the same question I've asked everyone else on the show so far. What initially brought you to Hot Springs?
Um it was I get asked that question a lot by customers. They're always curious. It was mainly serendipity.
Mm,
Um I was living in Arizona at the time. I had been there for 2 years in the Navajo reservation, and it was a little lonely. We lived on the campus of a hospital, and I was doing research of small towns where to go to, and we knew a family that was relocating to Hot Springs.
mm, mm-hmm.
She's from Pine Ridge, and the family was relocating. They bought a house just outside of Hot Springs,
Okay.
and we came to visit. And I liked it, but I knew nothing about South Dakota.
Yeah.
And of course, the weather. I that would have been a great minus for me had I done more research. But I fell in love with the location, the beauty of it, the size. I was looking for a small town, and real estate was much more
Hmm.
affordable, cost of living than a lot of the other towns I had been researching. So
Yeah.
it was just a fluke.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. We're
Yeah,
glad you found us.
yeah, yeah.
So tell us a bit about your business background in the sense of where did the inspiration come for starting Lucy and the Green Wolf, and what led up to that?
Yeah. Um, Well, when I moved here initially, I had planned to work outside of the house, and I had been a medical interpreter for some years, and I could do that over the phone. There's some companies that work with interpreters that way.
Hmm.
But after a couple of years, it was time for me to connect with the community, and um, I kept walking past this empty building next to Earth Goods, and something kept tugging. And I wasn't quite sure what it was. And I kept seeing it empty and feeling like if I don't do something about it, somebody's going to get this building. So I've always been in love with cultures and handmade things, and also social causes.
Yes.
So this was a great way to combine all of that. Um, it was a bit scary, but everybody in my family, they're in business. Everybody owns their own business. That's
Okay.
what my father did all his life, my grandfather. So I reached out to my brother and to ask his take and his advice on how to go about it. And he was very supportive. And with his encouragement, I figured out how to get started. And then I talked to my neighbors, Rich and Jackie.
Yeah.
And Rich, in his own jokester way, he said, if you do not get that building, I'm going to get it because I'm planning an expansion. So he just kind of pushed me
Yeah.
to like, just go ahead and do it. And that's how it got started.
That is so cool.
You know, something they said when I was asking for their take, I also because I was going to be their neighbor, so I wanted to make sure it was something that they were comfortable with. So I presented my idea, my business plan, and one of the things they said was when we were getting ready to open, everybody told us a business like yours is not going to make it in this community. You know, health food, and it's crazy to want to do it. And, you know, at the time they had been in business 20 years, 19, 20 years when I bought the building. So that was encouraging.
Yeah.
They just said, yeah, it might sound crazy to do that here, but just go for it.
Yeah. Trust
Yeah,
trust
yeah,
that it'll.
trust your instinct. Yeah.
So I guess diving in a little more on what you do here at Lucy and the Green Wolf, you have a mission statement. And I was reading, just to kind of refresh, on your online store, you talk about that your mission is to support and inspire sustainable living by offering goods that help reduce our negative social and environmental impact around the globe. How long have you been wanting to? Obviously, something like that comes from a lifelong sort of personal um, growth and understanding of the world, and wanting to make an impact on others and the world, and on yourself. But how long has that motivated you to create a business around that, and to reach that message or push that message out to other people, and hopefully influence them to start thinking more about, you know, how they can affect, you know, our world, and take better care of it, and take better care of each other in society?
Um, like you said, I think it's been a lifelong quest. Like I said, my family, they've all been in business. And I always thought that I was not meant to be in the business world. I was not good at selling things. And when I saw how good my dad was at selling things, or my brothers, I just thought that's not me. So I went into the humanities, and I was always involved with programs that had to do with indigenous groups in Mexico. Um, uh, During my vacation from school, or as part of my studies, always that. And what I discovered was, it was when I was in graduate school. We were looking at human development documents from the, you know, different United Nations reports and stuff. And I started seeing that the communities that were doing better were the communities where the villages, the members of the community were empowered, not receiving aid from, you know, richer countries, but acquiring skills or honing their own skills and traditional skills, and supported to become part of that global market as it was these days. You know, if you didn't have access to that global market, you were at a disadvantage.
Right.
And then if you fell prey to some big corporation, you were just exploited.
Right.
So that, I think, having access to those reports opened my eyes a little bit to what kinds of quote unquote help was needed.
Yeah.
And it was not, you know, the trips that just come and give a hand, because that's just bringing the fish, but you're not supporting the community so they continue their own fishing.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and I think that was part of it. That was a great
Wonderful.
a great part of it.
So with that mission, for people who might not be familiar with some of the terminology of sustainable or renewable or fair trade, explain why those things are important and why people should consider those things when they're looking at purchasing not only gifts and the fun things, but also more practical things.
Yeah. To put it like in simple, clear terms, like in the traditional supply chain of, capitalism, um, the people behind the machines or the people in the fields, they're traditionally not paid fair wages.
Yeah.
They're traditionally not treated well or in a way that helps them and their families thrive. So, as a response to that, the fair trade movement, which was like a global movement, and then there are a couple of organizations, a world organization and a US based fair trade organization. So, groups that become members commit to practice or to conduct business following several principles. And those principles ensure that artisans are paid fair wages, that there's no child labor, that there's a respect for the environment. So all those principles are what people commit to. And the groups that abide by those principles are working very close with the artisans. So in that sense, when people see a tag that says fair trade, it's almost like when they go to the store and they see a product that says certified organic. So there's an inspecting body that is going to make sure that all those principles are met. And so that is what it will mean if folks see. And they ask me a lot, because a lot of my tags will say fair trade. Some of them say direct trade, and that means I bought directly from the artisan that made the item. Okay. And others say fair trade. That's what it means. And I always have handy some of those principles if people are curious or they want to investigate more. One of the principles that I like a lot is that there are durable relationships with the artisans or the groups. So I work with some companies and trading companies that have worked with the same artisans for over 30, 35, 40 years in those communities. So of course now they're working with newer generations and they're empowering the folks to maybe become independent, open their own little workshops. And they continue going to those communities and helping the artisans design new products or improve their processes or open a childcare center for their kids. So, and they become like families for a lot of this trading groups.
That's cool.
So
That's
yeah,
cool.
I like that part a lot.
It's very cool. So we've kind of not we've kind of talked about the mission now. Let's talk a little bit about like the tangibles. What you have for sale here in Lucy and the Green Wolf, because I think it would really be enlightening for people to understand that it's, like I was talking about earlier, it's not just gifts and stuff like that, but there's very practical things that you sell here as well. Talk a little bit about your product line and how you kind of find new products or kind of gauge what you think the community might be interested in purchasing, or do you carry different things at different times of the year depending on visitors and locals?
Yeah. Like anybody in retail knows, is a balancing act, always a balancing act between what I would like to carry and the things I'm in love with, and then the things that I think customers in this area would like, the things that our customers in this region could afford, and then what visitors would like to find. Yeah. So, and of course my space is small, relatively small, so I have managed to fill every crevice without making it overwhelming. But so it is a balancing act. But I do source through different venues. I source through fair trade groups, and that culture is very sharing. There are support groups of fair trade retailers, and we exchange information. We're constantly, daily in communication. Like if I'm trying to find a product, I'll throw the question like, "Where do you guys source, and what groups are you comfortable working with?" And it's reciprocal. We're always sharing information, and it's not a competitive field in the sense that in other areas, once you find a great product, you don't want to give that information away because you want to be the only one that carries
Right.
that. Fair trade is the opposite. People are always sharing, like, guess what, I found this great company, and let's all carry their products, because the more we sell, the more we empower those artisan communities.
That's wonderful.
So I have apparel that is made in Nepal by these communities that are weaving and knitting and crocheting with wool. But I also have dresses made by women in Ghana that are doing their own hand batiking. I have products from South America that are using traditionally woven textiles. But then I also have American-made products or American-sourced products that fill the other part of my mission, which is to support sustainability in connection with, let's not put more out there than we can process or recycle or do something with once we're done with a product. So I have a lot of what's called reusables. So instead of using a disposable sandwich bag, what can we use to carry our lunch to work that we can continue using over and over again? Or the feminine products that are reusable, which is nothing new. It's what our grandmothers used, but now it's becoming trendy with the newer generations that are more aware of what our impact is on the environment. So a lot of those things are made here in the U.S. by small businesses, sometimes home-based businesses. Moms that started making their own products for their kids, and now they become small companies making cloth diapers or items for themselves. And then there are some things that I make here when and if I have time. And at the beginning of the shop, when we first opened, I had more time, so I was making some of those things here. So some of the produce bags that we can carry to the grocery store to put our produce in and avoid the plastic bags, those I initially made here. And now I don't have time, and I source through other venues. But so the kind of products that people can find is just so diverse, and customers always are surprised at how much they can find and the kinds of things they can find locally.
Absolutely. How supportive would you say has the community been over the last 5 years? Has it surprised you in any way, or?
People are very loyal. Once they find the shop and that we carry the products that they're interested in, they are very supportive. I have customers that keep coming back for any little gift they need. They bring their friends. When they have visitors from out of town, they make sure they bring them to see what we have here. And then visitors from out of town, they're always surprised. They always comment on like how surprised they are to find a store like this in Hot Springs, because in their communities it might be not uncommon, but then they find that our prices are much lower than what they would pay back in the West Coast or in the East Coast.
Absolutely.
And so they end up shopping here because they see things they would find there, but at more affordable prices. So that's part of our mission too, to sacrifice a little bit of the profit that would stay in the shop, so customers can have access to these products.
Yeah. So one of the things that you've been instrumental in, you kind of touched on it there, was the Ditch the Disposables project a few years back when it was just starting up, and that you collaborated with Rajni Lerman on. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and how you wanted to change how people think about, reusable bags and getting away from, plastic, what people consider disposable, because they're really not disposable. They hang around for, years. That's just not, and it's the nature of plastic.
Yeah, yeah, and some of those items will stay there for hundreds of years. If
Yeah.
we're thinking about styrofoam, for example,
Yeah.
it'll just be there forever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is collaborating with individuals and groups and organizations, be it local or national at a national level, is part of our mission. Working with Roshni Lerman, who is such an active member of the community, and as a community organizer, she has a lot of reach. So when she first moved to town, she stopped by the shop and we had a great conversation, and she said she wanted to collaborate. So we have a lot of interests in common, and it was easy to become allies. And the Dish That Disposables campaign was not necessarily that we wanted to bring about huge change, because it's something that people have always been aware of.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks say, oh, I do have my bags, but I forget them at home. Or, oh, I do have the bags, but they're in the car and I forgot. So we were talking about how can we support people to stick to their commitment, like, oh, I'm gonna bring my bags, or I've thought about it, but I haven't done much about it yet.
It's about changing that mentality. It's about getting people to think of that, or not even think about it first, but for it to just be an immediate, oh, I've got to grab my bag.
To become like an instinct, the same way we don't forget our keys or our cell phone. Our day will be terrible if we forgot those two things. So it's the same way. We wanted to be supportive of people, to have not only the bags were just an excuse, really, because we ordered these bags with a great logo that said keep Hot Springs beautiful and sustainable, and we thought this is a way to promote the town. If visitors take the bags with them, they'll be like, Hot Springs? What Hot Springs? And we used the nice splash logo. So we wanted to take the message of Hot Springs farther, but it was an excuse to have the conversations with people, like, oh, are you using your bags? And then it was funny how people started joking about it, like if they saw us outside, or I bumped into somebody at the grocery store, they'll be like, oh my God, there is Lucy, I have to go to the car and get my bags, I can't be seen with the plastic bags, and it was funny how we became like, the disposable cops, in a funny, friendly way. But also it allowed us to start those conversations.
That's
and
great.
That has expanded into, I've continued working with Roshni in other programs. The Ditch the Disposables is a continuous campaign, and we've started the Black Hills Friends of Pollinators group, where we are trying to encourage folks to do things to support pollinators, to protect them in the area. And we are creating a website together that is called Black Hills Sustainable Living.
Okay.
And so in that website, we're going to include all these different programs. And Roshni works with Keep Hot Springs Beautiful, and they have been very instrumental to collaborating with us with some of those programs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one, I guess a couple more things before we hop into the last segment.
Yeah.
What has been kind of your favorite thing about living in Hot Springs since you've moved here?
Yeah. Oh gosh, there are several things. I am from the second largest city in Mexico. The last census says we are about 5 million people in the metropolitan area of Guadalajara. So living in a town like Hot Springs, Hot Springs is about the size of my neighborhood in Guadalajara. So to me, this is like a permanent vacation. And that is what I wanted. I've always been, ever since high school, I've walked or taken public transportation. I don't drive. So to me, it was important to live in a community where I could walk everywhere. So I walk my dogs and I walk everywhere. I will walk to the grocery store. I walk to visit friends. So that part I love.
Yeah.
I love being able to walk everywhere. The small community feeling where everybody knows everybody. It's a blessing and a and a curse, you know. You can't just go to the movies incognito. You'll bump into everybody. But at the same time, I really love that part that you get to know everybody.
And then one of the other things that you've been involved in on the very fun side, I think we've been kind of, you're talking a bit more about, serious about missions and about, improving the community and helping people. One of the fun things that you've been involved with is the bringing the full moon dance party to Hot Springs. And that's every fall, right?
We do that at the end of summer, the very end of summer. So we started the name Full Moon Dance Party because it would be the full moon of August, as close as we could have it to the full moon on a Friday or a Saturday.
Okay.
So and we started that with Rich and Jackie of Earth Goods and my partner Michael Amos, who everybody knows as Yoko. He's a DJ, and so we got together one time, and Rich and Jackie were getting ready to go on a trip, and they were a little stressed, and we said, what if we have a party and we invite everybody? And we were trying to find places to have it, and we finally decided to have it at the park. It was easier for everybody to park, and people would see that we were having a party and join us, and folks loved it, and it's grown. And the most recent year, we collaborated with the Balloon Festival because it coincided the same weekend, and we were able to have guests at the party that came to town for the Balloon Festival. So it was a great coincidence.
That's cool.
It's always fun, and the main purpose was to have community. People that would not come together for other events would just, of course, say yes to a dance party, a free dance party at the park. This year, Rich and Jackie need a break, so they've taken a step back, and this year they're not going to participate. And so we're still wondering if we're going to have the party this year, or we're just going to have a big party accessible for the Balloon Festival. That's for Yoko and the Balloon Festival folks to decide. Or if anybody wants to jump in and help, as volunteers, because that's the main thing. Rich and Jackie did a lot, setting up the lights, and it's a lot of work on their, free time. And then Yoko has to set up music, so Marty Mayer has always been helpful, and Jarrett Waymer too. So it takes a good group of volunteers to coordinate something like that. But it's been fun.
Every major event like that, I don't think people often, I think people take for granted how much time and effort goes into it, not just on the evening of or the day of. It really is, a long process to bring something like that to fruition. And so to get an event like that is so positive for the community, I definitely have to commend you for that as well. And then so the last part, which folks who've been listening for the last couple episodes will know, is we've been adding a trivia little quiz about the community of Hot Springs and about some of our local businesses. So the first question is, and this one is the only multiple choice one, but it's multiple choice. The Nichols Sanitarium building on North 16th Street, with its castle-like architecture overlooking downtown, and it's visible from outside Lucy and the Green Wolf up on the hill, was originally constructed in 1917 for the purpose of serving people afflicted with what illness? A, cancer, B, tuberculosis, C, cholera, D, smallpox.
Wow, I want to say tuberculosis, but I think that would be wrong. I think I heard from somebody that it was a cancer institute.
It was a cancer sanitarium. That was excellent. It was the Nichols Cancer Sanitarium.
Wow.
Yes. What is the official name of the bright orange, blue, and green bison mural painted on the side of the CBH Co-op building on Jennings Avenue, a couple buildings west of here?
Oh, wow. I didn't know it had an official name.
It does.
That's such a great addition to the community. I've heard some folks that, wanted something not so modern, but people love it.
Oh,
People love it.
it is the number one Instagrammed photo in the Hot Springs
Yeah.
area, hands down.
Yeah. Yeah. I constantly see folks standing there for the photo and then
Hmm.
they linger downtown and
It's good.
yeah. Oh, I don't know what
It's
the official name is.
it's a Spirit of the Springs.
Oh, nice.
Yes, yeah, and that was organized by the Cultural Development Organization that
Mm-hmm.
does most of the murals downtown.
Yeah.
So yeah, and each of those they actually do all have names that have been designated. And you can look that up on the CDO website, hotspringscdo.org.
Sure.
Um, this one should be pretty simple as well. Name three Hot Springs area businesses. I don't know why I held two fingers up. People wouldn't see that on there, but three
Three.
Hot Springs area businesses that sell groceries.
Well, we have Lynn's Dakota Mart,
Hmm.
and we have Sonny's,
Hmm.
and then we have Earth Goods next door.
Yes, indeed.
And they all, I want to point out quickly, like they all carry organic food,
Yes.
to different degrees, but that is a great thing. I hope they continue incorporating
Yeah.
that.
It's been great watching Sonny's and Lynn's change what they carry over the year to carry more organic goods. They've definitely done a great job of keeping up with what the demand has been from the general
Yeah,
public.
yeah.
And then of course other ones that would have been acceptable. Shopko Hometown has a grocery section. Dollar
Mm.
General and Family Dollar
Oh,
all
yeah.
have grocery sections. The commercial building that is now home to Lucy and the Green Wolf was, according to documentation by the Hot Springs Historic District, built in what year? So this building we're sitting in right now.
Um, you know, I recently had to look up some information because we are going to install a solar awning outside
Yeah.
the building, and we were dealing with the historic commission.
Hmm.
And gosh, but I did not find specific information. Rich next door was kind of trying to help me figure out the year
Yeah.
based on when their building was built. So help me here. You seem to have the correct information.
According to the Hot Springs Historic District, this building was built in 1952.
Okay, it's more or less what Rich was guessing sometime in the
50s.
probably late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely kind of got that look.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. And the main challenges on these buildings downtown are, at least in our case, the roof, for
yes.
example.
Yep.
Flat roofs.
Hmm. Hmm.
Somebody told me there's only two kinds of flat roofs, the ones that leak and the ones that are going to leak.
Yeah.
So you really have to take care of them and just kind of treat them with love and care.
Yes,
And
very much so.
yeah.
All right. Well, those are the questions that I had. So I wanted to thank you again for sitting down with me to
Oh,
talk.
thank you.
And I hope that people come in and check you out at Lucy and the Green Wolf. What's the address down here on Jennings Avenue?
This is 740 Jennings.
740 Jennings.
We're right between the CVH cooperative.
Mhm.
People come here a lot during the winter.
Mhm.
And Earth Goods Natural Foods.
Yes.
It's a great location.
Good. And then if people want to find information about you online, where can they do that?
We are using our Facebook page as our main communication venue. So it's Lucy and the Green Wolf on Facebook, and
Okay.
we're diligent about responding people's messages there, questions, and they can always call us. I get a lot of phone calls. They can call. We're here every day except Sunday.
And your hours are?
I'm here from 11 to 6 this time of year. In the summer, when it gets busier, I'm here at 10 o'clock from
Okay.
10 to 6. And Saturdays, we close a little earlier at 4:30.
Okay.
But Saturday, I get a lot of visitors. People come to the movie theater,
Yes.
and then they stop by before going
For
to the
the
movie.
matinee?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. It's been great to have the movie theater back open.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we're just around the corner, so people can browse and then they look at their, watches
Yeah.
and like, oh, it's 5 minutes to, time for the movie. Let's
Time
go.
to check out.
Yeah, so it's been great to be just a couple of doors from the movie theater.
Great. Well, thank you again, and thank you for everything you do in the community.
Oh, thank you. It was awesome.
So-
And I love the podcast.
Thanks. I appreciate it.